Great. Okay, so it's recording now. So we're good? We're good? Yes, recording. Hi, everyone. I'm Reese Ben Yaacov, and I'm here today with Rachel Michaelov. Okay, Michaelov. I'm just kidding. Michaelov.
Whatever.
And Rachel is the CEO of Empire Tax Professionals. And Rachel, you are based in New York City or just out of New York City?
Yeah. New York City.
That's right. And you have been working as a tax professional for how many years now?
12 years.
Wow. 12 years. Wow. Wow. Yeah, I saw all of your credentials. There's a long list there. And you are one of the only accountants that I've ever met that is highly passionate about what you do. I found you because of your posts on Facebook. We became quick friends because we both share a religion and our passion for Israel. But I've never seen an accountant, a tax professional, love what they do more than you love what you do. And it's infectious. I'm telling you, I've never been more interested about finances than when I read your posts. I mean,
thank you. I succeeded then.
It's true. I mean, you probably get a ton of engagement, but anyway, so Empire Tax Professionals. And I know that you're working with clients locally in New York, but you started to take on clients all around the United States. So what you're doing isn't just for local New Yorkers, it's also for any American I guess it's just Americans. You wouldn't necessarily help anybody over in Canada, would you?
No, not really. I wouldn't, unless they're an American citizen living abroad. Like I have a lot of clients in Israel, let's say, that are U.S. citizens, and then they need to still file their taxes, then I would. But but like, people that are Canadians or anything like that, I normally don't do what I don't know how to do, and I just leave that to the professional.
Right. Well, you actually stated that. I am an American living in Israel. I do have to file in both countries, so we'll talk about that after the call. Okay. Anyway, so you've decided recently that you want to start working with online-based businesses. You want to try and move away from brick and mortar because they're just too old school. They don't understand the concept of sending things in the cloud. And so you're looking to work with online business owners. And your goal is to work with online business owners that are making 7 figures a year. So we're looking at, multiple 6 figures per month, which is fantastic. Right. It's very exciting.
So, yeah, I would still people making, $100,000. I still have clients all over different levels, but as long as they're an online entrepreneur, you're good.
Right. Yes. And one of your latest posts, one of your latest posts was about how they have multiple streams of income. It's not just one, but multiple. So again, if you guys want to be really interested about finances, Rachel's Facebook profile is the place to go. You'll learn a lot just by reading her posts. That I can tell you. Mm-hmm. So we've got a lot of men and women in this community that I've formed that are just starting out their online business. And obviously they've got a lot of questions, a lot of concerns about what the best way to set up their business for success so that they're not finding themselves 12 months down the line screwed because they didn't take into consideration their filings, their tax requirements. What would you tell a new online business owner just starting out? And since you're an American tax professional, we're going to focus on America. There's plenty of people in America. And for those that aren't in America, don't worry. You can ask me some of your tax questions later and I'll point you to the right person. But so what would you tell a new online business owner when they're just getting started and really just have no idea what to do? What's the first thing?
So, the first thing I would tell an online business owner is just, make sure you have enough money to incorporate. I have a lot of people that, come to me, VA specifically, and they say, oh, I'm only making, $5,000 for this year. Do I really need to incorporate? In my opinion, I would say no. And I know a lot of accountants will go against me on this because, you normally want to incorporate in a company if you are, if you have the potential of being sued and if you're making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So a lot of VAs, they're just trying this gig out. They're taking some courses like yourself. and, they're trying things out. And once they make consistent, at least I would say $3,000 a month of income, then I would say, okay, hey, listen, now it's time to incorporate. Now it's time to, speak to a professional. But I don't want VAs or any online owners to really spend money before they make money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things, they like, oh, should I spend $1,000 to open an LLC? Should I spend $500 to incorporate? I really want them to focus, make money, take the skills, be skilled in what they're doing, learn as much as they can, hustle, obviously. And then once they start making enough income, then they should incorporate. That's what I would, say. And I tell this to a lot of people.
So starting out as a sole proprietor, that's what you're suggesting, until you're making consistent income of about $3,000 a month, then and only then consider incorporating your business.
Right. Or I would say anything above $20,000 a year or $25K a year, if they made that, then it makes sense for them to incorporate. Because remember, when you're incorporating, you need to file 2 separate tax returns. You need to file one for the company and one for the personal. And I don't want, anyone, especially virtual assistants, who are spending so much money on other things such as, software and courses, and now they need to spend money on incorporating, and now they need to spend more money on filing 2 separate tax returns. It's just like a waste of money. And I every dollar makes a difference. I would rather them spend $1,000 on marketing or something that's going to generate them more money. And once they get the profits, then it would make sense for them to incorporate. Mm-hmm. But
Yeah. Okay. So then what is the benefit of incorporating? Let's say you're at that $25,000 a year mark, like you're just scratching the surface of what you can do. What's the benefit of incorporating your business and setting yourself up as an LLC?
So a single member LLC, there's just like 4 different entities, right? There's single member LLCs, there's a multi-member LLC, there's an SCorp and a SCorp, right? Mm-hmm. There's just 4 entities. Now, when you're an LLC, which is the most common brand in the online world, I mean, single member LLCs, it's very common, but it's in my opinion and based on my CPA network, we always recommend single member LLCs has the highest risk of audit, and you pay the highest taxes with a single member LLC. Mm-hmm. Now, this may shock a lot of people, and it's true. You don't see this online, but based on my 12 years worth of experience, when you're a single member LLC, you report your income and expenses on your individual return, right? I'm not, I'm trying to make this as simple as possible because, when you have like $40,000, $50,000 on a single member LLC, you're going to be showing a lot of expenses, and you're increasing the risks of being audited, because if you ever get audited, the IRS may ask specific receipts and, on the return. Also, you pay the highest amount of taxes. So I would always recommend an SCorp if you're already incorporating, and you pay. So with a single member LLC, you pay about 30% net income. You pay 30% taxes on your net, and then you pay 15% on the SCorp. So if you're making like $100,000 net income on a single member LLC, you're going to pay $30,000 worth of taxes, but on an SCorp, you'll pay $15,000. So knowing the right entity based on your specific situation is truly, the difference. Is truly important.
It's the difference between, $20,000 essentially. So why aren't we seeing more SCorps in the online space instead of, everyone I know has an LLC?
Great question. So you could still be an LLC and be taxed as an SCorp. We just don't know what they're taxed as, So a lot of people and I would recommend this. You can start small, and let's say you're just getting your feet wet. You could be a single member LLC from the very beginning, and from day one. And then you still report your income and expenses on your individual return. And once you reach that $25,000 mark, then you could convert your LLC to be taxed as an SCorp. And your name could still have, let's say, Michaelov LLC, but you'll be taxed as an SCorp. And, nobody would know that because that's just with private information.
Mm-hmm.
But you could still be Rachel Michaelov LLC and still be an S-Corp. And a lot of people that are LLCs and single member LLCs, to be very honest with you, that is just a flag for me in letting me know that they don't have a good accountant helping them save the most money in taxes. Because this is it's general information and it's basic. And if their accountant doesn't know, then I could already guess their age, believe it or not, on their account. And I would say, okay, is your accountant old school? Yeah, how'd you know? Does your accountant know the online space? Not really. Okay, so and then you would know that's why they're LLCs, because their accountant is giving them really old information.
Oh, wow. Interesting. That is really interesting, Rachel. I mean, the fact that you can spot their age just by the advice of their accountant. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about the fees for a single entity LLC as opposed to an S-Corp. I mean, you say that the tax implications in terms of what you owe at the end of the year, so much less for an S-Corp than a single member LLC. But talk to me a little bit about what that means for us in terms of what we pay you, right, every year. Is it still less for the S-Corp?
So I'll tell you, every single state has a different fee to incorporate. So even if you're like in New York, let's say the fee is $400 for you to incorporate. In Delaware, it could be a little bit less. So if somebody tells me, hey, I want to open a corporation, the first thing I would ask is, what state are you in? You always want to make sure that you're incorporated in the state that you live in, which is another thing that online entrepreneurs constantly ask us. They say, oh, I live in New York, but can I open my corporation in Nevada or Delaware or Wyoming? Because those are the top 3 states that are like the biggest protection and there's no state tax. Or somebody tells me in Texas, but you're being taxed on where are you physically? So just because you're in Nevada, but you're working in New York and you're living in New York, you cannot avoid the New York state tax.
Right.
So incorporating in a different state does not make any sense. Mm-hmm. It makes, it just defeats the whole purpose. And you're actually in New York State, you actually pay more taxes because you're a foreign entity doing business in New York. You pay, because you're incorporated in Texas, and to New York, you're a foreign company. Now you're paying, instead of paying $25 at a minimum tax, you're paying $300 every year at the minimum tax. Mm-hmm. And every year the tax rates are different, but that was based on last year. And so based on how much people would pay us or accountants in general, the fees vary based on state to state. And at the end of the year, corporate returns vary between $500 a year for the very low end to, it could go all the way up to like $1,000. Now, virtual assistants should not be paying, if you're making like less than, I would say between, $20,000 to $100,000, the average fee is about $600. And that could be also the lower end, but I had people tell me, I paid $1,500 for my corporate return and I'm almost falling off my chair. And you asked me a really great question, because $1,500 for a simple corporate return is way too much. And when somebody tells you that they may have 500 different credentials again, after their name, but that is not something that VAs really need. You need someone to report your income and expenses accurately, correctly, and you don't need an attorney to prepare your return. You need just someone that's licensed. It could either be a CPA, an EA, or an attorney, but I normally say stay away from attorneys. They really overcharge because they have an hourly rate that they need to follow no matter what. Right. That's how most attorneys work. But that's right. You could just get
They could just hire you.
That because they hire me or whoever. I don't pitch. I'm not, whoever, but pitch. At least okay, I'm just saying, like, it doesn't really matter with it's me or someone else, but the average should be between, I would say, $500 to $650, like within that range. If somebody tells you $800 is my minimum price, say, okay, thank you very much. I'll shop around. Constantly shop around. And I always say, it never hurts to shop around. Go to 5 people around your area and then get the average and say, oh, this is way up here. This is too low. I'll go with someone that's right in the middle, but just make sure that they're licensed. Make sure they're available all year round for you, because you could get something for $400, but then after April 15th, they're nowhere to be found, which is a problem. There's some accountants that are only.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, because who Who files their taxes on time?
Exactly. Or if you like, even if you file on time, there are a bunch of people, like we prepared over 20 returns yesterday, just in one day. But there are people that get notices. The IRS does not send notices usually between January to April. Most IRS notices go out after April 15th. Right. And April 15th between December, most accountants are not in the office unless you have year-round work. Mm-hmm. And if you got a notice in June, or if you want to buy a house in July, let's say, you need your tax returns, you need a CPA letter, you need your accountant, you need it. I mean, you're buying a house, you need something, or you got an IRS notice that tells you need to respond within 2 weeks, and your accountant is nowhere to be found, you're in trouble. So paying $400, it doesn't make any sense. Paying someone that's available all year round, that extra peace of mind makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's it makes all the difference. I mean, I actually just went through something here. My husband's business is set up. It's I wouldn't even say it's complicated, but perhaps the Israeli authorities thought it was complicated. And, I'm an American living in Israel. So what I'm saying, even though it happened in Israel, it can happen in the United States, it can happen in Australia, it can happen in Poland, anywhere. The moment the tax authorities are up on your stuff, you don't want that to happen. You want to be as far away from the tax authorities as you possibly can. You want to be in their good graces, because I just paid a fortune to have my CPA dig us out of this mess, which in the end, we were fine. But when the tax authorities decide they want to come and audit you and check you out, it's going to cost you a pretty penny just to make sure you have everything set up and everything's proper and running as it should, and you're not cheating anybody, just for that peace of mind. So you definitely don't want to go, price shopping for the lowest priced accountant. And as Rachel said, find somebody who is around and willing to speak to you June, July, August, September. These are really important factors that I wouldn't even have thought to ask you if it weren't for you bringing this up.
Right. And also another thing, make sure they have staff. Sometimes accountants, they overwork and they get sick. I mean, it happens. People overwork themselves, they get into the hospital, whatever. And I had clients that left their accountants because there's no staff picking up the phones. There's nobody answering emails. So even if you're sick, God forbid something happens, at least you have the proper staff to assist you when you're not in the office, which is really important. If they're solo, that's not good. I mean, a lot of accountants are solo, but to hire companies, hire people that can back you up. I had a client who, she was a daycare, a small little daycare, and she left the account, she left the company that she was working with, and she was solo, and she was in the hospital for 2 to 3 weeks, and she doesn't have any of her documents because the accountant is solo. She doesn't have any people working with her. And, now we have to dig up, where's the receipts, where's tax returns? It's a headache. It's such a headache. But if you have a person, working with you, it's just easier. Hire people that have teams. It's really important.
I wouldn't say it's as important. I would say it's just critical, actually. I can't see how anyone, given this information that you're sharing with us, I know everyone that's watching this video now will think twice before they ever go price shopping for the lowest priced accountant, one that's just a solo accountant that works at home. You've given us so much valuable information on how to manage your online businesses from inception and to do it smart. And really, I think so many of us that want to get involved, want to open up an online business, it's not that we don't want to do it right. We just don't know what we don't know, I've got some questions here from members of my community, and I'd love to ask you if that's okay. So Melissa says, I'd like to know what software you recommend for a new online business that, is organizing their finances themselves to prepare for end of year tax returns. There's so many options. So she lists PayPal, QuickBooks Self-Employed, Dubsado. What do you think?
I would recommend, that's a good question, but I would recommend QuickBooks because I'm an accountant and I know how to use it. But the only issue is that It's very, I don't know, QuickBooks is really for accountants. And I want to share a really quick story. I had a virtual assistant. She may be in your group. I'm not really sure. She had like $86,000 worth of income. And, when we were preparing her return, she's like, oh my God, that seems to be so high. Something doesn't make sense. And she, she didn't want to spend money on a bookkeeping software or do anything, or on a bookkeeper rather. So she's like, Rachel, let me review it. I'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay, if you don't think this doesn't make sense, I don't want you to, overpay. It took her 2 weeks during tax season to go back to her QuickBooks and bank statements and verify if that income is correct. She said that she accidentally double counted her income.
Okay.
And it was from 60 to 80. So there's some of the that were double counted, whatever. And when you use an accounting software that you don't know how to really use, because it's mainly for accountants, you may double count your income. You may double count your expenses. This may be a little bit old school, but I would probably use QuickBooks, or you find some YouTube, software to make sure that you're doing it correctly. Or if you're really an entry-level VA and you don't have that many transactions, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I give to my clients because they don't really need bookkeeping or bookkeepers when they're not even making so much money.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. VAs should really focus on their income and expenses every single month on their own and not really hire bookkeepers. They need to know how much money they're making and what their expenses are to cut it down. I would probably use an Excel sheet or something, and not a software, because remember, I feel like the brain is constantly finding excuses for somebody else to do the work for you. But whichever software you use, whether it's Dubsado, QuickBooks, whatever, at the end of the day, what is your result? You need to sit down and review your numbers and review and just make sure it's correct. Don't go to QuickBooks saying, oh, it's done. I finally did my finances. Did you sit down? And I just had a webinar and I mentioned, I personally have a CEO time on my calendar. Mm-hmm. This is something that every single business owner needs to have in order to grow your business. And I have it like Sundays usually, when my kids go to sleep, and I say, okay, how much money did I make for the week? What is my goal for the next week? If I made 10 grand last week, can I challenge myself to make 20,000 for the following week? What are my expenses? Am I paying too much for bank service charges? What are the softwares that I'm paying for? Because there's constantly softwares that you don't really use. Like you could be using Asana, Dubsado, and a software may not be the right fit because it's not working for you, but they're constantly charging you every single month and you forget to cancel it, right? So don't let the mind trick you, and review your numbers regardless of which software. That's all distractions. Like Sam Ovens, lots of like 7-figure entrepreneurs say software is a distraction. Just review your monthly numbers. And I don't know Dubsado's accounting system. I don't know Xero's accounting system, but whatever it is, sit down, make sure it matches with the bank statements, and have the CEO time, which is really crucial for growing your business, regardless of what software you use.
Oh, that's great advice. Have CEO time. And so basically what you're saying is sit down and invest in yourself and in your business and go over everything with a fine-tooth comb from a very high level all the way down to a micro level. Know what you're doing. Know what you're spending your time on. Know where you're spending your money. Know where your money's going. Know how it's coming in. Be in control of that. The moment that you give up your control to software, to people that you outsource, to I don't know what, coaches and things. I mean, yeah, it gets a little convoluted or diluted, if you will.
Right.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. When you're just starting out, you're making up to maybe $100,000 a year. You certainly don't need to complicate things with more and more software. You need to have a CEO meeting once a month, once a week, however you like to do it, and just, how do you say, pull the bull in by the horns and make sure you have control of your business. That's great advice.
And then when you make $100K, then like outsource it to a bookkeeper. Then it would make sense for you to outsource it. But less than $100K, and if you're really, and this is a secret that my coach tells us, if you're paying a bookkeeper $100 or $200 a month, how valuable can this person really be? You're paying them like $10, $15 an hour. how valuable can they be? You just do the bookkeeping yourself and maybe have an accountant review it at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I would, if you have any software, sit down with your accountant for an hour, send it to them, whatever it is. I review things at the end of the year. But they need to really, as a business owner, this is something that you can't delegate. And my coach always tells me this: you can never delegate something that you haven't mastered yourself. Master something yourself, right? And then delegate it, whether it's bookkeeping, whatever it is. Master it yourself, know your expenses, and then delegate it. Because if you're delegating it in your brain, it says, oh, it's done, but it's really not done. You're just spending more money, and we don't want you to do that.
I'm reading The E-Myth right now. Have you read that book yet, Rachel?
Yes, of course.
So what you just said right now about delegating the work before you've mastered it is the reason why most small businesses fail in the first year, 2 or 3 years, is because they're so interested in just offloading this to a bookkeeper, to a VA, to I don't know what, just to get it off their plate so they don't have to think about it anymore. And the problem with that is, as you said, if you haven't mastered it yet, if you don't have a really solid grip on the intricacies of your business, you should not, as a matter of fact, it's imperative that you not hand it over to someone else, because that's when you lose control, and that's when all of everything starts falling between the cracks. And that's where businesses fail. Yeah.
I agree 100%.
So there's a little bit more to this question by Melissa. She asks, and I think we may have already answered this question, is bootstrapping a good way to go because it's cheaper, or do you lose out in functionality and details you need for your taxes? So we answered that. Everything we just said is yes to bootstrapping. If you're an online business making up to $100,000 a year, keep it simple. Rachel says she sends her clients a very simple Excel spreadsheet. Don't complicate things.
With you.
Say again?
I could share it with you. Tony Robbins says complexity is the enemy of execution. Stop making things complicated. It's simple. It's just income on one sheet, expenses on the other, categorize it by category, advertising, rent, phone, internet. Simple, simple, simple. Put the months January to December. Put in the $50, whatever it is that you're spending. It must not be that much if you're only making $100K.
Right.
It's not that hard. Whether you do it by pen and paper, Excel, whatever it is, just know, pay attention, be intentional of the numbers. Don't delegate things. And I find it funny when people delegate it to VAs that don't have bookkeeping experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's better if they do it themselves, because nobody would do it better than you. Nobody. VA, you could delegate it to somebody else, but then they're looking at the numbers. They have no connection to the numbers. Mm-hmm. But when you sit down and you're like, oh my God, I spent $500 on Uber this month, or I spent, $1,000 on meals, it hurts you, and it should be painful when you do your bookkeeping, because that's what changes you. When you see you're spending $500 on Uber, you're like, holy shit, I got to change that. Why am I spending so much? Next month, I'm going to spend $250. But when you give it to a bookkeeper, they don't care. We just add the numbers, give you the reports, and we're done. That's our job. Right. But you're making less than $100. You need to make instant changes. You got to be the CEO if you're planning to go to make 7 figures within, on a fast track within a year or two. That's the only way to get there, of knowing your numbers.
So then my next question for you is, Rachel's asking the best way to keep track of my accounting and receipts so I can just easily send the information to my accountant come tax time. So we're sticking to simplicity. So are there any programs that you particularly love using for your clients, Rachel, to say, snap a picture of a receipt or scan something, anything to make it easier to keep track of the receipts? I mean, even though we're working off of a basic spreadsheet, but what other tools would you recommend?
I would recommend, we have Neat Desk. It's like $300 or $400. It's a scanner. You could just download, scan everything over or take a picture of it. And I also recommend maybe having a separate email address for your receipts. So, I don't have this because I have, whatever, but some people, we'd recommend, let's say you could have Rachel's Receipts @gmail.com and maybe taking a picture and forwarding all your receipts to that. And then at the end of the month, just organizing the receipts from, advertising or just dragging and making separate folders in Dropbox, for example, having one folder called bookkeeping and then having separate subfolders in that folder, advertising, office supplies, Amazon, whatever, just categorizing it. I would recommend that. There's something called Receipt Bank. That would be also another thing that they could take pictures and upload it. There's HubDoc as well that, but I want to tell you, a lot of online entrepreneurs, they don't really go to the store. I mean, we buy everything on Amazon. We buy everything online. So most of your transactions are really on your bank statements, and they email you exactly a detailed receipt of what you purchased. So if you're really, scanning receipts, it's really things that you purchase, when you're going to the store. And a lot of, online entrepreneurs are doing less and less of that. So you shouldn't really have that much to scan.
It's true.
A lot of it is like, if I go to Staples, for example, it gives me a minimized receipt, and we put it under my receipts tab in Gmail. And, if the IRS ever audits you, only then you would really need to prove and give those receipts. But if I see Staples on your bank statements, I, as an accountant, I'm not going to ask you what did you buy? I would assume Staples is office supplies. I would assume AT&T is a telephone expense, depending on how much it is, or Amazon is inventory, depending on the type of company that you are. But we normally don't ask receipts, and just scan it, take a picture of it, organize it on Dropbox, and you're good.
Yeah. Perfect. So where is let me see, get my screen back up. I've got an interesting question for you. One of my students is based in India, and she says, I would like to ask, as a foreign national in the U.S., do I need to take care of anything differently? No, I'm sorry. Do I need to take care of anything different from U.S. citizens? I don't know if I think I understand what she's trying to say.
Is she a U.S. resident? I'm assuming not, right? She's not a U.S. resident, green card holder, or U.S. citizen.
Actually, I'm going to ask her, and we'll wait for her response. Let's see what she says. Okay.
I would ask her, are you a U.S. resident, green card holder, citizen, any status? If not, then she doesn't have anything. I mean, I don't know about what she needs to do in India, but according to the U.S., I don't think she needs to do anything, because people here are paying her, and you're going to deduct her as an expense with whatever services she provides to us. Let's say I hire her for VA services. I would put it under virtual assistant services, and I don't need to give her a 1099 either, because she doesn't have a social security number or a tax ID number. People would just deduct her as an expense with whatever services they are using her for.
Right. So when do we need to fill out 1099s, Rachel? I filled them out so many times.
Say that again. You broke up. I'm sorry. The internet connection wasn't.
That's okay. When do we, as virtual assistants, need to fill out 1099s?
So when you hire someone and you pay an individual, and you're hoping to pay an individual more than $600 for the year, you're required to give them a 1099. Mm-hmm. Now, I always recommend, before you giving anyone a paycheck, you need to make sure that you collect a W-9 form from every single individual that you pay. So, for example, I have my virtual assistant that applied for a job, and I say, I don't know how much I'm going to her. You never know what the total amounts are. You could just be giving her one check. You could be giving her 20 checks. It could be less than 600. It could be more.
Right.
But as a standard procedure, every single person that you hire, you should give them a W-9 and say, hey, listen, this is a standard procedure. Please fill this out. As soon as you fill out, we could start paying you. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the year, when you do your bookkeeping, you're going to say, I paid Reese this much, I paid Rachel this much, and if it tallies up to more than 600, you already have the W-9 forms in file, and you just issue them a 1099 at the end of the year, which is due January 31st. If you pay them less than 600, you just ignore it, and they're still responsible for reporting the income, but you're not required to give them a 1099.
Understood. See, I didn't know that. Fabulous. But I don't think
W-9
we have...
is really
Yes, she says no. She's an EAD. What does an EAD mean? Oh, are you familiar with that term? Don't know. I'll have to. Yeah, shame. I don't know what that means. She responded.
Sorry.
Let's see if I can't think of any other questions, Rachel. My head, wow, that was a lot of information. It's really great and valuable information. I know that everyone watching this is going to be so thankful to you. And I won't be surprised if you start hearing from people saying, we saw your video on Reese's Facebook group, and we'd love to talk to you about our online business. Because what you said a little while ago about these old school accountants, I just want to bring that up again. Folks, it's so important when you are hiring an accountant that you do your homework on them. It's not enough that they're the friend of your friends, or they live in the same neighborhood, or they've been doing it for 40 years. Sometimes that can be to your detriment. You need to work with an accountant that specializes in online business, that knows some of these tax loopholes, because your goal, Rachel, and I've seen this posted many times on your feed, your goal is to save your clients the most money that you can.
Without getting audited.
Without getting audited.
So like we could help. That is like really, I have 2 goals for every single client that comes to me, and one is to pay the lowest amount legally on your taxes, and then helping you reduce the risks of being audited. And, I don't say this because, we're deducting illegal stuff. No, even if you got audited, I am there to represent you. I'm licensed by the IRS. I'm licensed in 50 states, but nobody has the time to dig receipts and prove something that you are entitled to. It's so annoying to get audited. It's such a waste of time. You could invest all that time in marketing and doing other things. Nobody wants that. I mean, God forbid you get audited, you have backup. It's perfect. It's in and out. But who needs, it's a headache. And then now, like you said, you paid a CPA a lot of money. It's a lot of money, time. It's just a headache.
Well, use me as an example. I was just audited here in Israel, and I can tell you that a month and a half of our time and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars went to clear this up, just to prove to the Israeli tax authorities and the United States tax authorities that we're kosher. Okay, we're doing everything correct. So you definitely don't want to be audited. You want to find a tax professional like Rachel that can guide you with, what am I trying to say? Make sure that you're not walking around with blinders on. Somebody that's experienced in the online world and knows how to keep your tax implications low for the end of the year. Rachel, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. And I am here to help anyone. I'm going to send you my Excel spreadsheet that you could just really give everybody, because and by the way, most accountants are there to make money. I am not here to make money. I'm here to help as much as I can. So let them use it. Let them stop spending money on all these softwares, and just anything they need, they could always reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you know, and I cannot wait to see you when you get here with your family.
I will.
I'm holding you to that. We're going to do we're going to get our kids together so that you and I can go have coffee live. I can't wait.
Thank you. Hopefully in May or April, I will be in Israel. Hopefully.
Yofi.
Thank you, Israel.
All right.
Thank you
Shalom.
so much.
So
Good luck with everything and Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, Rachel.
No problem. Bye.